Okay, what the are you doing, Jackson? We have another race before the summer break. It's Hungary. Welcome back to the 305K. Jackson is ready to go now after he seemed to be already off for vacation. Look, we've got one more race before the summer break. We have Aston Martin bringing a huge upgrade package right before the summer break, which is
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
And we've got one of my least favorite tracks in the circuit, or excuse me, on the calendar, but ready to go racing another weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a funny way you put it in our Belgium review. You said it's Monaco without like walls.
Walls.
It's a hard track to overtake. But it's a track that's caused drama. I mean, I think back 2 years ago when Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris had their first like really big papaya rules moment when
Not to mention
McLaren, or was
that's the
that
one
last
that
year?
really buried
It was
Sergio Perez.
last year.
Last year, no, no, no. 2 years ago was Papaya Rules, where Oscar got his first ever win. Last year was
No,
the
it
year
was
when Charles Leclerc got pole surprisingly, and then had to inflate his tires bigger because Ferrari completely fucked up his car weight. And I think George Russell took the win that weekend, or maybe George Russell finished on the podium. I forget. But look, this track, we're gonna need some chaos, and I think we're gonna get it. Monaco this
yeah.
year was chaotic, and it had nothing to do with the racing. If any year is gonna turn up here at a track that's, in my opinion, not particularly interesting, it's this one.
Yeah, and I mean it also in a little way similar to Spain where like it doesn't have a ton of overtaking opportunities, but has a big front straight that there can have action at. So I feel like if there's any main drama, it'll be there. I mean, they who was it? Bottas went bowling in 2021 at this track, which you never knew was even possible in Formula One. But
Kimi been bowling last year. Or sorry, that was in Austria. My fault.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, this like you said, there's one big straight that's where a majority of the overtakes are. You see some of them coming out of turn one. There's another quick DRS straight, but there's really
yeah.
not much otherwise,
Mhm.
unless you have a huge tire offset or a huge car offset. So a lot of corners, not a lot of straight line. So I think that, look, as a Ferrari fan, I'm very hopeful for this weekend. I mean, I say it a lot. I say it almost every episode, frankly, except for Austria, but in particular, Hungary is quite interesting because it's going to be down to how well can you follow and stay close going into the main straight. And for Ferrari, the cornering is their strong suit. And you have a few very slow corners. The last corner is one where you have to wait a very long time before you get on the throttle. You have to trust the
Yeah.
car. And I really think that the Ferrari right now is a very good car in those corners. That's what we've been seeing, hearing all the drivers saying that's what we've been seeing on the broadcasts. So it could come down to that in the race. But then again, the wild card has always been Kimi Antonelli this season because he's been
Mhm.
on level with his pace.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been ridiculous. He was on an absolute heater last weekend in Belgium, and I mean, I could see him continuing the momentum. It's just like it feels like every weekend, no matter what, that Mercedes is in it, and especially Kimi Antonelli leading the charge, um,
Yeah,
kind
no,
of attacking the
absolutely.
Ferraris, if you will.
Yeah, and we'll see with George how he responds to some more adversity. But more importantly, I just don't think he's had the pace. And obviously last weekend wasn't entirely his fault, why
Mhm.
he had a really poor finish. But we'll see. I don't see him having a huge bounce back here.
I don't either. I think his mental strength he showed like after he crashed, it was just like I don't
hmm
know if he's gonna be able to overcome it.
Yeah. And I did want to say between the two Ferraris, Charles Leclerc had two quite good results in a row. Obviously, one
Hmm.
in Great Britain was fighting for the win in Spa, finished P2. This is a track where we mentioned it earlier, but last year he got pole out of pretty much nowhere in a Ferrari that was completely in the mud. And then his race was messed up by stuff out of his control. But look, he could go out there and put a surprise pole in just like last year. And his race pace, who knows? You know what I mean? I think
Hmm.
he's probably my outside pick for a potential race win here. And
Hmm.
I think that he's definitely put himself back in the conversation.
Yeah, I think the last few races he's definitely been better than Lewis as well. Who is like, I've mentioned it, but like better than him to start the year. I think that the results
Yeah, for
showed that.
sure.
But I think he definitely is in a comeback. And I think the Ferraris, you've said, have a strong car here that could very well compete. And I don't know. I just it feels hard to bet against Kimi Antonelli, but at the same time, it feels very easy to bet against George Russell. So it's
Yeah,
just
well, it's
like,
easy to hate watch them as well.
yeah,
Um, I also wanted to touch on they're not going to be challenging for the race win, but Aston Martin have had a dreadful season. You don't need me to say that. But it's been unlike I think anything I've ever seen. And right now they're bringing an upgrade package where they hope to have I think half the deficit.
yeah,
Now maybe
yeah.
they'll be 2 seconds back.
No, that's the funny thing is like they say they're going to have the deficit to the field, but it basically means they may be competing with the Cadillacs. It's just like,
Yeah, no, it's shambolic, really. I mean, it's really
yeah,
embarrassing for them.
yeah.
The other story that I have here is that look, McLaren, I think, are in a really weird place because they're finding themselves not quite fighting for race wins, but at the same time, they're maybe nibbling on the back of the Ferrari and the Mercedes. I thought that Oscar's pace was there potentially to fight for a podium in
Mhm.
Spa, and he had some damage, wasn't able to get there. Lando wasn't there. Like I just question going into this weekend, is this going to be a very positive moment for them where maybe they clear the Red Bulls, have a challenge, like challenge the top two, or is it
Mhm.
just another weekend where we see them 5 and 7, 6 and 8, something like that?
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean, it's a track that they have had success at, obviously. I mean, the whole papaya rules thing came from because they were in a 1-2 position. So it's like, it's a track. And I know I say this on the podcast all the time. I talk about previous results, but I do think it's something that you can draw
Yeah.
from to take what a car might do. And I mean, it's 2026, so there's new kind of what's happening. And obviously, they haven't won a race this year, but I think that it could be a better weekend for them. And I do draw a little bit of hope from those previous years.
Yeah. All right. I think we should get into our predictions here.
We didn't mention Malaysia potentially
Oh
coming
yes,
back.
yeah, yeah. Touch on that real quick.
It's just that obviously with the conflicts going on in the Middle East, there have been we canceled Bahrain and Saudi, and there's been talks about Qatar and Abu Dhabi getting canceled as well. So they've been looking to other options for tracks. I mean, we've heard names such as Portugal, maybe even another race in Barcelona at a point, but they
Okay.
brought they brought Malaysia
Back into the
potentially coming
conversation.
back, and that's a race that hasn't been since forever. No, I mean
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean, since
remember.
before we were watching the
Yeah,
sport,
exactly.
what I think is interesting here is that the timing of this all is a little bit confusing because if you're doing a straight switch, we would see this race come onto the calendar and end the year potentially, um, which I
But they
cannot
wanted
imagine happening. I almost think
no.
they're going to move Vegas back a few weeks and make that the closing race, which would also be
It,
chaos.
it'd be crazy. I mean, I actually kind of like that idea. I mean, so there's obviously people that don't like Vegas. I've personally been a guy where like I don't mind it, and it provides for
Mhm.
great racing every year with that crazy straight along the strip. Um,
Yeah,
but the
absolutely.
place they've
I would
been
totally.
mentioning, they were going to put it in between like Baku and Singapore, I believe, because it's close to the Singaporean airport. Um,
That would make sense.
it would make sense. It's just like I don't
Who knows? I
know.
mean, still, that would mean that Vegas, I think, is ending the year, unless is
Yeah, no, nothing's in
nothing.
between Abu
Yeah,
Dhabi, Qatar.
Vegas,
It's
Qatar. Yeah,
Abu
so
Dhabi
that would still mean Vegas ends the year, which I think Dominicali is really like
wants that.
excited about that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's a positive thing for them, and I think the purists of the sport will be very distraught with
upset.
that possibility. But you know what?
But
I
they
think
would be happy with
as
Malaysia coming back.
it's anything's better than Abu Dhabi and Qatar finishing the
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
year. So let's
Um,
get into our picks now. You
Last thing I
have
was just gonna mention, we have a little drip report, which might go for like either liveries in the future, but this week because I decided to add it on. Alex Albon has a new helmet this week. That's all I got, but that's the drip report from the 305K.
uh,
Now let's get into our predictions.
yeah, I was a little bit over you there.
Yeah.
Well, you're starting it off here. You have surprise points. Um,
Uh,
Go ahead.
So I have, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I like to draw on former, results. But this one, I think if I'd ever drawn one, this is actually a pretty good one. Esteban Ocon had his first race win here in 2021 off a crazy race. It was actually the race where I mentioned Bottas went bowling. So I have Esteban Ocon getting his surprise points in a track that means a lot to him.
Yeah, that would be an interesting result also because Haas have been in the mud in the last
I
month or
know.
but like Bella said last episode, they've looked a little bit more comfortable.
Hmm.
Last weekend they cleared the Williams, it seemed. Um, Look, I'm going with the safer pick. I'm going with Arvin Lindblad just because I think that he's shown so much pace this year. And that Racing Bulls has looked quite good compared to the midfield. Look, I actually have very high hopes for Arvin Lindblad in the sport just because he's looked super quick. He's looked like he's had that pace. Um, and maybe consistency is the struggle, but I think that that's something that you can work on and comes with maturity.
Yep. You have big flop.
I do a big flop, and last two times I've gone kind of big with my big flops, and so I'm going big again here. Look, Isaac Hadjar had a spectacular drive in Spa. Went
Oh,
21st to 6th, great drive, was level with Verstappen on pace. I know F1 voodoo quite well. Look, you don't go even with Verstappen without having to pay a price somewhere with your soul or with your pace or something.
hey, just look at
You
Checo
get
2023.
exactly, you get one result like that, something gives somewhere else. And I think that 2 years ago, this is where Sergio Perez really started to lose confidence and really started to get talked about getting sacked from Red Bull. I think Hadjar's in for kind of a poor weekend here. So, well,
You know, I told you before the episode I'm going big with this because like I'm usually a guy that just goes small. I'm going Isaac Hadjar's teammate and going with big Max
uh,
Verstappen because
I
I
thought
don't
you
know.
were going
I
to go
don't have
straight Kimmy there.
what?
I thought you were going to go Kimmy, honestly.
No, I can't go against Kimmy at the moment. I don't really know why. I needed someone to go big against, and I feel like Max has had his troubles this year with his car, and I just feel like right before the summer break they're gonna leave a sour taste in his mouth, stirring up the rumors during silly season.
Mm.
It might be absolutely ridiculous. It probably is, but we'll see what we got. I guess I have hot take. So this is kind of gonna go with my the rest of my podium. So I'm like giving a little teaser, if you will. I'm going three different teams on my podium.
Wow.
So it's kind of unlikely, but I think it could happen here, and maybe we're due for some chaos.
I'm going to switch my prediction here. And I'm also going to have one that goes my podium. My original one was one Merc doesn't score. So that's probably going to happen now that I'm switching it. But
Mm.
I'm switching it because I want to be a dreamer. I'm going to go Ferrari double podium here.
Oh,
Um,
we like this prediction. Okay.
so I'm not quite copying yours, but I think it's along the same route because it involves one Mercedes off the podium. So
Okay.
kind of vibes there. But now I'm on to pole.
Yep.
It's really hard for me to pick pole here because I just don't think I can pick against Kimmy. I really don't. At the same time, look, last year's Ferrari was a complete shitbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if Charles Leclerc could manage to drag that car into pole position last year when it was in that state at this track, look, like I just think he could put it on pole by a second and a half compared to the competition that he has this year.
Uh,
So I have tons of belief in him, and that's why I'm picking Charles Leclerc as my pole.
You know what, Tucker? I think that's the least surprising thing ever. Plain and simple. I'm glad you didn't go with Kimmy because I'm gonna go with Kimmy because the Mercedes has taken pole in every single Grand Prix qualifying this season, and until it fails me, I need to stick with it. I need my points. Kimmy Antonelli for pole position.
That's smart. Like
No, I
I'm gonna
think
go
the
fast.
Leclerc thing's interesting. I mean, what was so funny last year was all the headlines that came out of the race. Like you sent me that. Well, it was funny. We both sent the same thing into the group chat. Um, you know, but it had like captions such as like, what did Leclerc say? It was like, I can't
Leclerc
believe her.
Leclerc got fucked over and was unhappy with the car.
No,
Lando,
Leclerc took pole. He was shocked that he took pole.
yeah, but then the
Lando
race
said, "We're
started
all gonna
getting really
die
fucked.
someday," and the
Yeah, yeah,
championship
yeah.
didn't matter.
Yeah, well, and Leclerc was unhappy because in the race he got fucked over because Ferrari overinflated his tires to compensate for the fact that they were going to have too much wear on the plank because the car was riding too low. So in his last stint, he was lapping significantly slower because his tires were more inflated and weren't giving enough grip. That was one of our more technical episodes, I think. I think I was
No, we
relative.
didn't do Hungary. This is like the
How did
last
that
track that we
go?
didn't do,
That's
I
a shame.
think.
That would have been an interesting episode to talk
I
about.
know.
Mm.
I
But yeah,
mean, we did our mid-season. We did a summer break rankings as our first episode. I texted you about this. We're almost at our 1 year, which is kind of funny. Maybe we'll do
that
an
was
episode for that.
that was a behemoth of an episode as
I
well.
an hour and a half. I don't know how we did it.
I don't know how anyone will watch that one. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, we appreciate you
Anyways,
guys, especially the ones that have been there from there. I got to do P3.
a joke.
Um, I have Oscar Piastri, and
Ooh,
it might be crazy. He hasn't been. I don't think he's been on the podium all year long. Um, I think is
you
that
gotta put
true?
him in Japan.
Oh, okay. Anyways, it's been a while since he's been on the podium either way. And he hasn't he was better last weekend, but I think that the McLarens are gonna be better this weekend. So I think one of them is gonna be on the podium. I honestly could have switched this with Lando, and I think I did actually. But I don't know why I think Austria's gonna beat Lando this weekend.
All right, that's fast. That's interesting. So that's the first of your three teams.
Yep.
I'm gonna get my first Ferrari out of the way.
Oh,
I have
okay.
Lewis Hamilton in P3 here. Look, I have Ferrari double podium for a reason. I'm confident in the car this week. I'm confident in the fact that at this track where there's so many corners, so few straights, I think that Ferrari are going to be on the front foot. Um, and I think that obviously Lewis is a spectacular driver. And every track is a good track for Lewis Hamilton.
Mm,
I just think that Leclerc has a little bit of momentum right now, and he's particularly good at this track, at least last year, where it looked like he was going to fight for a win before he got, unfortunately, affected by Ferrari's strategy. So that's my P3. My P2 is, of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli.
oh yeah, baby.
Look, there's nothing I can say.
Yep.
He's got incredible pace, and it's not even a
Baby
statement.
goat.
Why do I think he's going to be on the podium, or why do I think he's going to be two? It's more of a why don't I think he's going to be P1, and
Hmm.
that's because somewhere in my heart of hearts, I think that he can't win every single race, and if there's a race that Leclerc can have a good chance at winning, I think it's this one.
Yep.
Ferrari's got a little momentum. It should cater to their car a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and Leclerc was successful here last year.
Yep. For my P2, I got Lewis Hamilton. I think that it'll be a good weekend from him. I don't know why I keep trusting him over Leclerc. That might be a mistake, honestly, but I think he took pole here 2 years ago. It was like a really random pole. He beat Max by like 3 thousandths of a second in that like crazy season from him. I guess it was 3 years ago. It was
I
because
was
it
going
was
to say 3 years
2023.
ago was
Yeah,
Oscar.
yeah, no, it was 2023, but he beat Max in that crazy season. And I just think that, maybe he'll bring that luck from 3 years ago. Who knows how?
I
He
mean,
took
yeah,
that in a Mercedes.
like I said,
And
every
have
track
a
is a
good
good
weekend.
track for Lewis. He's
Yep.
got some performance at every track that you can point
Yep.
to and say, look, he's been successful here. So
Yeah, I mean, I could pull from 2008 Brazil if I wanted to or whatever, whenever we get there. Or I think it
yeah,
was 2008. I don't know. Anyways,
doesn't might be
for my winner, it's kind of obvious. I got Kimi Antonelli. I just can't pick against him at the moment. He's just winning all these races, and it's like there's no reason. He's unbelievable, baby goat. Um, let's see what he can keep it rolling.
yeah. And like I said with my P2 prediction, there's no reasoning needed to pick him P1. Look, he's been the best driver. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He deserves to be that pick every single week. He
Mhm.
deserves to be picked P1 by one of us every single week. So my P1, I have number 16, Charles Leclerc. To no one's surprise. I think he's put a hex on me since I saw him in person. And I just keep off my podium. But I think that look, I have a shitload of hopium that informs all my predictions. But this week I do have those reasons.
Mhm.
Look,
Yep.
windy track, lots of corners, caters to the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc had success here last year, and Ferrari have a little bit of momentum. So that is why I have Charles Leclerc as my P1 and
That's
Ferrari
all you need.
taking
That's
some
all you
ground
need.
back in the championship.
Oh yeah, that's all you need. Um, I mean, what? That's all we got. We
Yeah,
got to go racing now.
we have to go racing, and then you can get back to your book after that because we'll be in the summer break. Obviously we'll have our breakdown episode, but after that, it's a little bit
Maybe
of
we'll
a
have our midsummer driving rankings and try not to make them last for an hour and a half.
yeah, we'll take it quicker for sure. Pause.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you all for watching. As usual, this has been hectic. We have double header weekend. Um, and we'll break it down. Hopefully Ferrari can get some momentum, take a few points out
We
in the
shall
season,
see.
but we have
We
to
shall
see
see.
exactly. And we will see you all next week.